Hi Aries, welcome to your end of November 2020 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. So I just wanted to go through a few of the transits that are up and coming. And one of them has just occurred, and this was your ruler Mars going direct on the 13th. I'm recording this on the 14th, the very next day. So this is very new for Mars to station direct, and because it's your ruler, this may be even more significant for you. And this is in your first house of the self. So in a generalized sort of way, you may have been feeling like you can't do even like physical things, that you've been restrained for some reason. So maybe you've been wanting to work out. When Mars is in your own sign, you can become quite active. The first house can rule the body, so that might make you more energetic and you have more energy to burn. But when Mars is retrograde, that can affect this area. So now that Mars is direct, all the personal planets are direct, and you may feel a sense of life kind of resuming in a more forward type of a flow rather than kind of hurry up and wait. And this is going to be in play until the end of January of 2021. So we have this green light portal for about 2.5 months. And it's a stark contrast to a lot of what we've been experiencing in 2020 with various personal planet or even some of the outer planets retrograding. And on the 14th, when I'm recording this, or 15th, depending on where you live, we have a new moon at 23 degrees of Scorpio. So for Aries, this is in your 8th house, and this is a house that is a water house. It's Scorpio's natural house. And so the area of new beginnings involves, for some people, this is also, because this is the house of shared resources, this can be some kind of a new type of loan, or maybe some agreement with shared money between you and another person. If there's an inheritance issue, in other words, that could be something that is moving, getting initiated in some way. But this could be something more on the metaphysical level, where you're going into therapy, or because the 8th house can be therapy and kind of digging below the surface, and or some kind of a course in astrology. The occult is the 8th house, or magical studies. So that's interesting. Shamanic healing courses. And then on the 30th, we have a lunar eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini. And this falls in the 3rd house for you, and this is a house of information. Gemini's house of can be the media or teaching and learning. Maybe you're ending a course, a training course, or but with the lunar eclipse, it's more than just an ending. It's almost like an end of an era, or something that has a very strong punctuation mark after it. So there could be, like, to me, a lunar eclipse in the 3rd house can be kind of being done with a local area, meaning that if you've lived someplace for a certain amount of time, it's like you're kind of over it, or you can let go of that neighborhood and you're not attached to it anymore. The 3rd house can be your siblings, your neighbors, and things like that. So there could be like a finality with that, or kind of like gaining a lot of insight. It's your mind, the 3rd house. So in general, there can be a spiritual download at that time that is very illuminating. Okay, well, now that that's done, let's see what we got here. It's funny. Makes a lot of sense since I'm just talking about the 8th house. Okay. So the heart of the matter is the Hermit card, and this is a card that is associated with Virgo. So any kind of Virgo person in general might be featured in your life at this time. But in terms of, the classic meaning of the Hermit, it's about the person that is seeking their inner truth. And so that usually involves more solitude. In astrology, the Hermit house is the 12th house, which is the house of the spirituality, past lives, karma, that kind of thing. And solitude is part of that. And the whole idea is that the spiritual aspirant is looking for the meaning of their life, and is doing so. In order to do so, you have to have that kind of quiet, the meditation and things like that, where you can actually do some soul searching. And so you might be doing some soul searching yourself. And this is kind of an interesting thing for Aries, because you're a very active type of person. And so if you're in that reflective mode, perhaps there's some deep reason for that has led you to, be more quiet and more passive, and look elsewhere, rather than look in within yourself rather than elsewhere. In the past position, we have the 3 of Pentacles, and this is a card that's associated with financial prosperity, abundance, but also in terms of co-workers, having a great sense of camaraderie, working well with other people. And sometimes this can even be like if this is a romantic situation, a third party that's involved, maybe an affair with a co-worker, or just that there are 3 people in this situation. And that certainly could be the cause for reflecting upon that if that is the case. But the other thing too is there might be a change in your job where you were working with others to being alone. And an example is this current situation that we're all in, where people have had to work remotely. And for you, Aries, that might have had an additional effect. I was talking about this earlier with another sign of, kind of getting off of that hamster wheel for a long enough time to be able to really reflect upon your life. And that can have a profound impact, where the person, has time to think, about other things, and they come to terms with, because there's a lot of distraction. They come to terms with whether or not they're happy on the course that they're on. So that may, because when I see those 2 cards together, the Hermit and the 3 of Pentacles, I think of, such a stark contrast between being alone and being with others, and, what that means. The higher message is the 6 of Wands, and this is a card of success, taking your bow, that sense of, being, it's not so much appreciated, but being, I guess you could say appreciated, but your talents are being acknowledged. And because this is a spiritual message, sometimes it can be advice that has a philosophical side to it. I personally think that this might have more to do with, if you're the type of person who really thrives on that kind of active, appreciation from your workplace, then you might feel this sense of it being hard to be alone, because you don't have that feedback, that positive feedback, as much as you would if you were in the same environment as your boss or coworkers or whoever it is that is giving you those positive strokes or something like that. So that might be something that you've had to kind of adjust in your life to some degree. Another thing that can happen is if you have kind of, if you've been married or, the equivalent, and separated from your partner because of their cheating, then you may, this card can be about, to me, about really feeling deserving of love, so that you attract relationships where the other person is faithful. Because sometimes I think that these types of scenarios come up when people feel a certain, they're holding this idea in their mind that they're not deserving of love, and it just kind of manifests that way, and they find themselves in a pattern where people are always cheating on them. And if you have found that in your life, and some Aries people do have Venus in Pisces, and that can lead, even though Venus is exalted in Pisces, what can happen is, I believe sometimes people like that almost have a sacrificial attitude towards love, and this idea that they have to always be the bigger person, and almost like that they're suffering connected with love. And so the Six of Wands is a card of being, emerging victorious and taking your bow, having your moment in the sun, and having your talents reflected back to you by admiration or praise and things like that. And that can also apply to personal relationships as well. What crosses you is the Hierophant, and this is a card that is connected to Taurus. And we also see the spiritual here. So again, we have the Hermit, and then we have this, but this is in the challenge position. Well, what I see with the Hierophant is the organized religion, or the, this card can even be a card of marriage, or, conformity. Aries, being a fire sign, tends to be more rebellious. All fire signs can have that quality. But even with people who are fire signs, there can always be that conditioning that a person grows up with, and that can lead to, in some cases, having a bit of conflict between, I just did this with another reading, I can't remember what sign it was, between the traditional teachings and what they believe in. Also with, in some cases, this can also be, because it's a card of marriage, it may be that you still have those, that kind of conditioning that divorce is a sign of failure, or is this, so there might be this feeling that you have to present yourself as somebody who has never made a mistake and doesn't have any problems. And that may come in conflict with your newfound belief that, maybe that this is not a good situation and you shouldn't be in it, but you just have a hard time being able to, what's that word, reconcile with these two different emotions or beliefs. And it's really important to, when you're reflecting on things, to take yourself into account. What is it that you need? Other people's opinions are none of your business. It's really all about what is important for you at this time in your life. Sometimes relationships have a season and they, have a purpose, but they're not necessarily going to sustain themselves for a lifetime. So it's important to be able to realize that, I feel. What's coming in? The Emperor, and this is your card. So this is a card that's connected with having order in your life and maybe taking control of your life. And it's possible that some Aries people have felt rather out of control. Again, with Mars being retrograde, you may have felt like you couldn't move forward, and now you're starting to grab the reins of that horse, and you're able to direct your life instead of feeling like you were being directed by some, out of control chariot. I almost feel like I should have gotten a chariot card here. The Emperor is number 4. It's the divine masculine, if I'm not mistaken, because I think the Empress is the divine feminine. And the idea of, and this is Aries is a masculine sign, and it's also a cardinal sign, so it's a take charge kind of an energy. And being able to move forward in your life without feeling like you have lost something or that you have failed at something. Realizing, if this is connected to a marriage, it can especially be, but even if it's in the workplace, if you have really been dependent upon your interactions with others and they have been really limited, it can still be such a great time for that solitude can serve you well, because it is really so different than your own personal, the typical Aries person's makeup is much more extroverted. And so it may feel uncomfortable, but it has a purpose that can benefit you if you will allow it to. And now that Mars is direct, I think that you will find that even if you are still alone, that you have this sense of there being more momentum and less stagnation in your life. And that will make you feel more in control as well. And then the outcome is the King of Swords, and this is a card, it could even be like a judge's decision, like getting divorced, or I feel like when I get the Queen of Swords that a person has to make a decision, and maybe with the King of Swords somebody else is making that decision about your life, whether it's a boss or a judge or somebody like that. But if this is a facet of yourself, you may realize that you have to totally separate yourself from any kind of emotional pull in a direction that may keep you lingering when it comes to a relationship that is perhaps really creating a lot of pain for you, especially if there's some kind of infidelity on another person's side. Because I'm assuming that this is not you who is participating, but the other party. Who knows, though? Maybe I'm wrong about that. But whatever, that could be having to let go of one of those kinds of relationships. And the point being about not having the emotion is that sometimes people, like I said before, and I was talking about the Hierophant, is that they feel this sense of loss, like a failure, and they blame themselves, or maybe they feel a sense of humiliation, like I was cheated on, so that means that I'm not good enough, or I'm not desirable, or something like that, instead of putting the onus on the other person, or just simply saying, I guess it's just our time, had its limitations. It wasn't meant to last forever, and it's nobody's fault. Taking a more philosophical approach and realizing that sometimes relationships don't last, and nobody is to blame. It just, they go in different directions, the two people. So whatever this is, it's the last two cards that I drew really indicate a sense of taking control of your life and your emotions. So, because that's what, a lot of people talk about water signs as being emotional, but so are fire signs. Fire signs tend to be more passionate, but it can still, kind of come out in a similar way sometimes as water signs, where there is a lot of people feel very deeply about things. So in any case, that's what I have for you, Aries. I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you would like a personal reading, I am primarily an astrologer, and I have different types of readings. All of my readings are on sale at this time until mid-December. So you can check me out at the link below. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.